exactly into his teammate. So the battle for team leadership there for the moment swinging to Berzin, the defending champion. Maurizio Fondriest, the eternal second on the circuit this year, now looking to break that and try and get a victory along the road. The start, very hazardous indeed. And the man who won the sprint yesterday, Mario Cipollini, he won't be feeling confident of retaining this leader's pink jersey. He's certainly not a time trial specialist, although in the team time trial, with the help of a strong team, he has won those. Tony Rominger settling in, the world hour record holder, who everybody feels may have put that record on the shelf, in excess of 55 kilometres covered in the hour. And then he's proving to us right now he's got the speed. And this is the first time check in the town of Spello, approximately 8 kilometres covered, and Rominger is a little bit down on the star names of this year's race. In fact, he's going through, even with Cipollini to come, only in 5th best time. So he's made a very sedate start here in the bad weather. Meanwhile, Claudio Chiappucci is heading towards the finish, and it's not a good time for Claudio, twice the runner-up in the Giro d'Italia. He's lost 55.8 seconds to Evgeny Berzin, who's home and not so dry. But Casagrande has also finished with a great time of 25.56, and now this is the arrival of Rolf Sorensen, who has been setting the trend out on the course. Has he maintained it up the hill? 25 minutes and 52 seconds. That is the new best time for Rolf Sorensen of Denmark. And now just Tony Rominger to match that, and he's going to be very, very close indeed. But Rominger is going to get the best time. He must have made a tremendous climb up to the finish here to get the better of Rolf Sorensen. 25.05. 47 seconds quicker than Sorensen. What a climb he did up to the summit here. Now let's go back out to Maurizio Fondriest, the Italian, who is trying to match the stars now, surprisingly, who are Rominger, Sorensen and Casagrande. Fondriest splits them. He gets third place, 25.52. And now Mario Cipollini, the pink jersey, we'd almost forgotten about him, out there on the course by himself today in the rain. He comes up to the finish, and not a bad ride either, but he's out of the pink jersey, only 10th best for Mario Cipollini. So predictably, Cipollini has lost his overall lead after one day in pink. It now goes across to Tony Rominger, and it's his first day ever in the pink leader's jersey, and if he intends to keep this all the way to the finish, then he has a real race on his hands. 5 hours, 40 minutes, 56 seconds. He's been racing for 2 days now. Fondriest is second at 43 seconds back. Rolf Sorensen up to third, 49 seconds down. This is Marotta on the shores of the Adriatico, the Adriatic Sea, and it's here where the riders are now facing up for stage number 3 from Spoleto. It's a ride of 161 kilometres, and it really should be a day for the sprinters, but you can never be certain as they wend their way out to the beautiful seaside resort at Marotta. Not too many challenges out on the course, and as they pop up out of the hole in the road here, this is the first Intergiro sprint of the day, and keeping up the rhythm in the sprint is Mario Cipollini. Always enjoys a good battle of shoulders. And Cipollini in that interim sprint competition racing for the blue leader's jersey, which is currently worn today by Maurizio Fondriest. Now the riders having covered the comparatively slow speed there of nearly 35 kilometres in the first hour. And this picture designed to make us all dizzy as we see the complete field in the Giro d'Italia, 198 of them. And so Tony Rominger, happy ensconced in this group, defending a 43-second lead over Maurizio Fondriest, and Francisco Casagrande is the 4th, Berzin is 5th, Cipollini currently in 6th place, and bonuses again on the line today. And Cipollini, no doubt, conscious of that. Now, this little breakaway, getting clear, 51 kilometres from the finish. Paolo Lanfranchi, Giorgio Furlan, Andrea Taffi, Massi and Piccoli. And Piccoli and Lanfranchi on the same Brasiliat team. The other two represent Gawiz, Mappe and Refan. And they're making a gain now, I would say, of around about a minute and a half over the field. There's no real big name in that breakaway group, so there's no reason for the Mappe, who've all got the front of the bunch here, to chase them down. It's more likely to be the Mercatoni Uno riders if they're thinking of Cipollini for the stage win. And not surprisingly now, the yellow jerseys of Mercatoni have got themselves to the front to give Mappe a hand in the chase down. And the weather has changed much for the better. This is a flat, and this indeed is Hilly Iceland, the rider who won a stage of the Tour de France in Great Britain last year, down in Portsmouth, and he's having his best season ever. It just shows you what a victory does. And Manali is back out chasing. He should get back because the field is settled down quite nicely here now as Mercatoni brings it all back together again. And now you get the reason why. 52 kilometres an hour set by the boys who ride a very good team time trial when they get the chance. And right now they're doing it again here and thinking of their man Mario Cipollini. This is the leading group, and you can see they decided to throw in the towel. And looking over the shoulder, the red jersey there is Rodolfo Massi from the Refin team, and that's the reason why Massi is the first to surrender, but they're all going to come back. Andrea Taffy trying to go clear here, and I think he's still got with him Giorgio Furlan, but they're going to have to give up very shortly because the train is in full flight here. And Mercatoni Uno have got all men up front, and they're towing at the back of that chain Mario Cipollini onto the coast and swinging round towards the finish now. So this is going to be another big sprint, and again the riders who are going to mix it up, they're going to have to see if they can take on Mario Cipollini once more. The end of just 100 miles of racing. Cipollini's got the front two, Capio in the reds trying to get through again, Jan Zarada on the left, but look at him, made it look very easy indeed. Mario Cipollini gets the stage win. Johan Capio on the far right on the rails takes second place, and Citerio from the AKI team, he'll be there in the third slot. And there's confirmation of the overall situation at the end of the third stage, and no change at all. And Rominger still holding on, 43 seconds ahead of Fondriest and Rolf Sorensen. And so we move on to stage number 4. And 2 stage wins in the bag for Mario Cipollini. That's a rather familiar scene for him in a big stage race in the early part of it. This is the route they face, going from Mondolfo to Loreto, 192 kilometres, staying more or less on the coast of the Adriatic Sea. But this is a course with a difference, because right towards the end of the route, you see the profile looks the same all the way along. That's because they do 5 identical 23-kilometre circuits. And here's the rider who has set this race alight today, Fabrizio Bontempi. No relation, by the way, to the famous Guido Bontempi, who's won almost a dozen stages of the Giro d'Italia over the years. But this is the less significant member of the group. 140 kilometres he's been out in front, and the main field has slowly wound him in. And the Mappe riders all around Rominger today, because the feeling is that this could be a very crucial stage. No major mountain climbs, but a very difficult circuit indeed, worthy of a world championship. And the crashes are happening as well. 105 is Angel Camargo of Kelme. The 2 boys in red who are having a rough time here are Carlos Galarreta, Jose Maria Uria. The road, in fact, had just been resurfaced, and quite clearly it's caused a bit of a problem. Now onto the climb here, and Tony Rominger in the pink, quite literally, has got his Mappe team organised well as they go over the top. And Podensana, the champion of Italy, not too far off his wheel either. Now this is a difficult stretch of the road, these 23-kilometre circuits. And again, the pressure is going on at the front. A number of riders still trying to break clear here. And this is an attack now by Antonio Pinelli. But it looks as though the Mappe riders are paying very close attention. Onto the climb again. Still Rominger has the riders at the front. He rides 4th on the wheel of his team. He knows that this field could split on this very difficult climb indeed. Well, this has been a tremendous circuit, in fact, well worthy, as I said earlier, of a World Championship event. And Rominger has shown just what a strong man he is today. Berzin is on the left of our picture, to the right shoulder of Tony Rominger. So he sensed too that this could be a crucial stage in the Giro d'Italia. Not too sure about the race referee's car being right where it was just there, as the Gawies team now start to turn the screw and test the Mappe boys. Go the devil. Well, that is an allusion there towards Claudio Chiappucci. And the Gawies riders trying desperately now to break up the grip of Mappe. It looks like Bruno Kengialta here on the front, who's stretching them clear, but Rominger is keeping an eye on him. And this is David Rebellin, 1 win this year, which came just before the start of this race in the Tour of Trentino. And they've got 15 seconds. They climb up now towards the end of this stage. But the whole field, although it's split up quite considerably, this is a very select big bunch, actually, around about 50 or 60 riders. They try to chase the 2 leaders. Claudio Chiappucci, this is. Twice second, once third in the Giro, but never the winner. He's come up against just 1 or 2 men, always better than him. And Chiappucci trying to drag the race back together. One thing about Il Diablo, he never gives up attacking. And he's trying to go alone on a difficult stage. There's definitely the possibility of gaining small time gains here today. And it's a very, very difficult course for any team to control the race properly. Chiappucci trying to reach Rebellin and Kengialta, and he's going to do it as well. 3 very strong riders getting together at the front. They all know each other extremely well. But it may well come too late, because it looks as though Chiappucci is going to be the forward emissary for quite a big group coming up. And the pink jersey of Rominger, you can spot him quite clearly, is third in that line. So despite the nature of a very difficult course and the distance of 192 kilometres today, it looks as though the pink jersey of Tony Rominger is coming right back into contention here. And there's been a crash on the corner. There's one of the riders from the Lampre team has gone off on the bend there. Well, service is at hand. And a quick push back into the race, but it was a shame because he was right on the front of the main field there. Now, inside the last kilometre to go here. The race is all coming together. And again, a complete misjudging of the right-hand bend there by the Gawiz rider. Radislav Bobrik, the former Soviet rider, used to ride for the Red Guard and well known for taking the lead for almost a week in the Tour du Pont a few years ago and winner last year of the Tour of Lombardy. Bobrik trying to go, but he's being reached by none other than Tony Rominger here. Rominger, you can see they can all see each other, but they're all going so slowly on what is a very difficult climb. Rominger is sweeping through here and really stamping his pure class on the Giro d'Italia. Winner of the time trial stage, Tony Rominger, is now taking out a road race stage, and he's going to take it in grand style. He's stamping on the pedals on the climb here. Up to the finishing line for the last time. The crowd have been entertained to a very, very difficult stage of the Giro today, and Tony Rominger is going to gain time on everybody. Rominger hits the line, gets the victory. Stage win number 2 of this year's Tour for him. Fondriest it is who crosses the line in second place. Then it's Casagrande, followed by Claudio Chiappucci, hung on well there to finish in 4th place. A battle of the giants indeed, and Tony Rominger has proven now he really is the man to beat in this year's race. And the route continues down the eastern coastline of the leg of Italy, now racing from Porto Recanati to Tortorito Lido. A ride of 182 kilometres, and the lead now of Tony Rominger over Maurizio Fondriest is 51 seconds. And Francisco Casagrande still surprising with a great 3rd place, 1 minute 7 seconds back. Last year's defending champion Berzin is 4th, a minute and 15. And this breakaway of 36 riders in the beginning escapes after 24 kilometres of the stage has been covered. It's thinning out a little bit now, and the illusion of it always being bright, warm, sunny weather in Italy again being broken today as the rain comes down on what is a very green part of the country. And the main field here, under the guidance, not surprisingly, of Mappe, although they're not very inspired at the moment, has allowed the breakaway to gain a maximum of 10 minutes and 30 seconds. And in that breakaway, we have Rolf Sorensen, the big danger, being allowed to escape. He was up to 3rd place overall, remember, after his time trial. And now he is the race leader on the road. So sooner or later, the Mappe team are going to have to come out and show us again their skills. Although it must be said that when Tony Rominger took over the Maglia Rosa at the end of stage number 2, he did say he didn't want to keep it all the way to the finish in Milan. So this may be the time for Rominger to stay close, but take the pressure away from the team and allow a new leader in the Tour. And it will be Rolf Sorensen. Sorensen just passing through our picture on the right there. This is the breakaway group. And they've gone very, very steady, but what they don't know, or what they may know, is there's still quite a climb to come before the finish. Gelfi, number 46, who has just passed through, and the sun catching the cameras now. That's Maria Chiesa, a very consistent rider. Oh, and there's a crash gone down in a bunch, a touch of wheels and pulled down 3 or 4 riders there. That is what happens on the slower sections of the course. A moment's lack of concentration, a touch of wheels, and they're down like a pack of cards. I don't think that rider's injured. But the crash, we believe, being caused by the Russian rider Pavel Tonkov. And I think it's Tonkov down there in the lamprey jersey who's still left on the roadside. This is Mario Chiesa sitting up near the front. And Eric Breukink, the team leader, or at least carrying the team leader's number on the Onse team. And the group is now down to 4 minutes 30 seconds. It's no longer 36 riders strong either. And so the riders, the gap is closing, but the finish is going to elude the main field. And these are the 4 survivors of the breakaway. Mario Chiesa, now Rolf Sorensen is going for the finish, followed by Filippo Casagrande and Eric Breukink. They're the men who are trying to make it to the line now. Sorensen taking on Filippo Casagrande in his first year at Italia. He gets a stage victory. And Sorensen will have to be content with second. Breukink is in third place, but the time gains in the end were not enough for Rolf Sorensen. The pink jersey staying on the shoulders of Tony Rominger today. And I'm not surprised Filippo Casagrande in tears. He's beaten some big names. And there he is, the Filippo Casagrande, the younger brother of Francisco Casagrande. Perhaps his brother's more famous, but he's got the stage win. And so, on to stage number 6 of the 78th Giro d'Italia, and the riders now heading from Trani to Taranto. 165 kilometres going inland, away from the Adriatic Sea. Not a lot to worry the riders. The hills still to come in this very difficult tour route this year, but there are 1 or 2 ups and downs, and those who want to attack the occasion surely is there today. We're now at 63 kilometres from the finish here. There's hardly been an attack all day, in fact, and the riders enjoying the rather sunny conditions which have at last arrived on the Giro d'Italia. The overall lead is still with Rominger, 51 seconds ahead of Fondriest, a minute 7 against Francisco Casagrande, and a minute 15 on the defending champion Berzin. And you see, the job of a domestique is not just setting the pace for a teammate either. In this case, Miguel Peña is having to give Tony Rominger a helping hand. So quite clearly the field enjoying the day and no real attacks coming, but the finish will be coming shortly and they won't want to give it all to the sprinters as Rominger takes a drink and goes back into the thick of the fray. This is Bruno Kengialta here, and according to the caption on his wheel is Paolo Lanfranchi. Kengialta being particularly active in the Giro so far. Very, very good rider indeed, former stage winner in the Tour de France as well. And now the peloton is being pulled out into a much, much longer line. A sign that they're getting a little bit angry, I think. Kengialta, Lanfranchi is the rider setting the pace. And we're heading now towards the Intergiro Sprint, which is the interim competition, the sprinters' competition. Sometimes called the hot spot along the route where there's an individual prize. And this little gap now has got 38 seconds. They weren't interested in the special sprint at all. They wanted time over the field. Lanfranchi, Kengialta. 2 strong teams backing them up. And it could well be that they could spoil the fun here, the sprinters, as we head into Taranto. And in fact, there's a puncture. Kengialta has signalled to his team car. He has a front wheel puncture. Now Moreno Argentin is in that gave his team car. The former top Italian and ex-world champion won his first world title, let's not forget, in America when the world championships were in Colorado Springs in the mid-80s. And a good wheel change, and he's back into the thick of the fray. But I'm afraid that that is going to destroy the rhythm of Bruno Kengialta. And he can't be too far ahead of the field, and there they are in full cry as well. So they're going to have Bruno, and then I think they'll pick up Paolo Lanfranchi as well. And so Lanfranchi looks over his shoulders. He's going to see the field, although he's sticking doggedly to his task here. The Brescialat team had a victory yesterday with Casagrande, but I don't think that the pendulum will swing his way again today. There they are, and they're not even racing that quickly because they're all ganging up now to decide which one is going to start the attack. There's still 20 kilometres, that's around about 12 miles from the finish. There's still time to play another card before the sprinters come into it. This isn't the sort of road, though, I must say, to encourage attacks. These long, straight, wide autostradas are not the place for the sprinters to pull away from the front of the field. The domestiques are going to work hard to hold this together. They're chasing down Langfranchi and they're reaching him. The strategy, an immediate counter-attack. And this looks like an attack going now from the Amore Vita team on the right, but quickly back together. These are the difficult moments in any stage of a big race, when the attacks come all the time as riders try to break up the field, and then they gradually get them pulled back together again. And this is Roland Meyer from TVM, who's now put his head down, and he lives in hope that he'll go clear of the field. 149th overall, and just over half an hour down. He's lost all of that in just under 900 kilometres of this year's Giro d'Italia. Now, this isn't the coast, by the way. We're now arriving at Taranto. This is a lake, and the riders coming in towards the finish and all getting themselves back together again. The Gavies team setting the pace. They've got two men likely candidates for final victory now, with Ugrimov and Berzin both up there in the overall classification. But the sprinters again are going to have their day, and Cipollini has got his men once again organised for his third win here. And Cipollini comes out from the left of our picture now. We've also got on there, in fact, we've got the pink jerseys too trying to get through there now. Jan Ferrara is behind Cipollini on his wheel, and Nicola Minali is also coming too now. This is going to be a great sprint finish, but Cipollini looks as though he's not very happy at all with the result of this one. He's been washed away, and Minali's going to get it on the line. Nicola Minali takes it on the line ahead of Cipollini, who is in the mauve jersey here as the leader of the points competition. But for this occasion, at least, he has to be content with second place. But even so, he'll keep the lead in the points, while the stage win has gone to Nicola Minali, and this his 8th win of his most successful season so far. Tony Rominger untroubled today. He holds his overall lead by 51 seconds ahead of Maurizio Fondriest, and Casagrande is third, 1:07. Berzin fourth, Ugrimov is fifth. And you go right down to Pavel Tonkov, who's had one or two ups and downs. He's in 7th place. And the race route today, the 7th stage from Taranto, goes right around the Gulf of Taranto before it finishes in Terme Luigiani, 216 kilometres, and the hill coming just before the end, and that's the sort of hill that the climbers will look at to try and break away from the field. Here's our view, Italian television are giving us, of the finish. All we've got to do now is ride the 216 kilometres to get there. The beautiful blue waters here. And I must say, Italy, a very inviting country indeed. Unless, of course, you're riding the Giro d'Italia. And on a very tortuous descent, a breakaway here of 6 riders. Udo Bolz is in it, so too is Mario Chiesa, Finelli and Elli. And it looks as though they're being hunted down by none less than the sprint king himself. And that's Mario Cipollini riding in blue, because he leads the sprint competition, the Intergiro, as well as the points competition. And so today he's pulled on the blue jersey as leader of the sprint. And Rominger himself has joined him at the front. Now, Rominger probably keeping out of trouble here, because it is quite a difficult area of the countryside. The roads are narrow, it's dangerous. But it is unusual, I must confess, to see the pink jersey taking such an interest on a stage like this. And Cipollini, too, normally a sprinter, is having a go to try and reach this breakaway of 6 men. You get some idea there, the tortuous descent. They drop down. And there's no doubt about the strength of these 2 riders if they can work clear of the field. But the field, I would think, in a little bit of disarray. And not surprisingly, Gawiz are bringing it back into order. Ugrimov and Berzin certainly not allowing the pink jersey too far a lead here. So Berzin has got to the front of that group and brought it back into order as we continue on the descent. And the whole field has more or less got back here. This is still the breakaway, but they're only hovering just in front of the group. And I would think that Mario Cipollini, time is running out for the big sprinter, because the hills will be coming shortly, and so he's trying to bring this break of 6 back personally, so he can line himself up for the finish down in Luigiani. Of course, he may be disappointed today when he gets there, because the finish is a slight drag uphill and not really a finish for Cipollini at all. Thomas Davey, having made this group as well, member of the Benesto team, and having to face up probably to 2 big tours this year, because Miguel Indurain in the upcoming Tour de France will rely a lot on Thomas Davey, the Frenchman, because he's such a strong rider. Inside 40, a little dig at the front. And slowly but surely, the riders are climbing up to the heights towards the finishing line, and there's still this breakaway is just about hanging on. Uchikov is bringing across the main field. A lot of power in this young man's legs as well. And he's going to reach them first, almost certainly. And the pink jersey never far away from the front. What a great race that Tony Rominger is riding. And remember, this is only in the first full week of the Giro d'Italia. Uchikov hanging on to his rhythm nicely. Well, he was, but he's lost it completely now, because his legs just locked up as he realised there was no point in the effort, because the Mappe boys have organised the chase down, and they're now beginning to close down the gap as a group. 7 kilometres to go, most of it climbing now, all of the way to the line. The pink jersey of Rominger keeping in a position where he can control just about everything. He'll watch just the men nearest to him at the moment. Remember that Maurizio Fondriest is second overall in the race, and we haven't seen a lot of him either, I must say. Casagrande is third and Berzin is fourth. Claudio Chiappucci on the Carrera team, always a high flyer in the Giro d'Italia. He's in 11th place at the minute, 2 minutes 24 seconds away from the Maglia Rosa. And now back with the leading group here. They may be being caught at the moment, but this is still an attack here, and it's gone now from Alessandro Bertolini of Carrera, and that's caused a reaction. But they're only just dangling off the front of the whole race, and now you get the picture here. Down below is the end of the tail of the leaders, and now you see the main field spiralling down towards them. And what a marvellous picture that is from the helicopter. And I must say that all of the motorbikes from the press are stuck in between. They're going to have to find a way out of this pretty quickly now. It's reminiscent of the descent down the Poggio, down into the end of Milan-San Remo, the great classic at the beginning of the season. Now the rider here trying to just keep the race going is Alberto Elli. And look at the speed that they're managing. Don't forget they're coming off the swoop as well, but they're still clocking just under 60 kilometres an hour as they try to stay clear. There's the man that started the reaction, number 58, Bertolini, and still trying to keep it going. But now I think the field has got them in their sights, and there's just a couple of survivors as his Ski Whiz bringing the hang on, and he's going to go for it himself. He's going to try and hang on towards the finish. The finish is not very far away, and Bertolini could get this. He's the only one left of that breakaway of 6 now, as the Ski Whiz team try to close down the gap, and Rominger is in there too. Rominger lying 4th or 5th down the line. It looks like Maurizio Fondriest just in front of Tony Rominger. Bertolini hanging on as the riders come up towards the finish now. Rominger is waiting to start the sprint here, and Ugrimov is trying to lead out, but he's falling away as Rominger starts, and now Fondriest has got his wheel, and Casagrande is tucked in into 3rd place. This again has become a battle among the leaders of the Giro d'Italia, and Fondriest is in the best position, but remember, he's been second more times this year than he cares to remember, but not this time. Rominger has dropped back and Fondriest has gone forward. Casagrande is trying, Ugrimov is hanging on there in 4th place, but again Maurizio Fondriest is back on the winner's podium for only the 2nd time this year. He won a stage of the 3 days of Depana. He gets the victory in this stage of the Giro d'Italia. And there's the result. Fondriest getting home just ahead of Rominger and Casagrande. Ugrimov, in fact, was given 4th. The numbers have been mistaken by the cameras. 8 days now covered in the Giro. This is stage number 8, Acqua Pesa Marina at sea level, taking the riders right to the heights of 1,546 metres at Monte Sereno. 209 kilometres a day perhaps for the riders to test the strength of Tony Rominger, who has led this race since day 2. And round the rims of what appears to be a crater here at the moment, but the riders are going to be climbing for much of the day and descending as well. And a breakaway of 16 men. They got clear after 22 kilometres on the first climb of the day, and it's being led here by Francesco Frattini, who comes to this race having just won the Grand Prix of Frankfurt, his first World Cup event, continuing the trend of the successful Italian riders again this year. There's the lineup of the breakaway, and Frattini has a teammate in here in Bruno Cenghialta, this immensely strong Italian who is threatening to do something big in this race. He's been challenging almost daily. And once again, the pressure back on the Mapei team. They're having to do an awful lot of work for Tony Rominger. He's taken the lead in this tour so early on. And although originally he said he didn't want to keep the pink jersey all the way to the finish, to me, he looks as though he might have changed his mind. There he is, staying in amongst with the teammates, while the breakaway itself is thinning out a little bit, but still here is Hernan Buenahera. Also Georg Tocznik of Poltny, Simone Borgarese, Mariana Piccoli, who has been a long-time leader of the King of the Mountain section of this race, and the Cubino, the leader of the Kelme team. And there is Tony Rominger. None of the riders in the lead breakaway a particular threat at the moment to the pink jersey of Tony Rominger. The gap, 3 minutes 2 seconds. That's about the best we've had all day. And Evgeny Berzin taking full advantage of the Mapei team tactics and sitting in there nicely. The defending champion, don't forget. It was only in the last week of the Giro last year where he started to look a little bit more normal as Miguel Indurain got into his stride. And the breakaway there beginning to splinter now. They're down to just 8 riders in that front group. And this is Cenghialta on the front. Georg Tocznik trying to go clear at the back as well. The 4 of them going ahead here. Cubino is the other rider from Kelme. And this is the remnants of the breakaway. Frattini now at the back of that second group. So the 8 men are split into 2 groups of 4. And Kelme have got their 2 strong men up here. Buenahora, the Colombian member, and also the team leader, Lordolino Cubino. Remember last year, Cubino got away on his own and won a stage. That was his first ever stage victory in the Giro d'Italia. And now he's got into what could be the right move again. Berzin not interested either in the breakaway. More the whereabouts of Tony Rominger. Pavel Tonkov on his right shoulder. Well, there's been no indication yet from Berzin just how well he really is going in this year's Giro d'Italia. And Tony Rominger hasn't been put under pressure yet by him either. The group split is around 12 seconds apart, 4 and 4, and the main field is coming back as well. 1 minute and 37 seconds. We're now on the climb, which will take us up to the top, and the climb is 5,000 plus feet to the summit. Very fast but steady tempo. Nobody willing to set the pace at all. 9 kilometers to the finish. Georg Tocznik. I saw him race as an amateur in the Tour of South Africa. A very, very talented mountain climber indeed. Just beginning to get his feet now as a professional rider. But one of Austria's finest amateur cyclists, along with Alain Franchi. And this is Cubino and Cenghialta. And in fact, it looks to me as though they've dropped to. There's Piccoli, the King of the Mountains leader. He's back in the group now, so he's been caught from that leading breakaway. He's in the green jersey. And also disappeared now is Buenahora. Tocznik taking a look down as we get through to 7 kilometers to go. And Cubino, I was about to say, it seems to be the strong man, and as I was about to say it, he's launched an acceleration like all good climbers can. Cenghialta straight onto him, and at the same time the Polti team car was up there to talk to Tocznik, and a chance to encourage Tocznik as well. Cenghialta cracked. He could not match the rhythm there of Cubino, and now it's up to Georg Tocznik to try and cross the gap alone, because Cenghialta hit the wall in no uncertain terms there. So Cubino trying to go away for what would be only his 2nd ever stage victory in the Tour of Italy. Concentrating very well indeed. The team, one of the early selections for this year's Tour de France, and that makes a change because they're so often on the reserve list. Now, can Tocznik get across the gap here? This is a chance for Georg Tocznik to really shine and give the team a big result. The rhythm behind continues. Moto 3 indicating now that we have 2 split groups up front, and the 3rd motorcycle camera coming back to the head of the main peloton. The long twisting descent. It's only a little bit of a brief descent before the climb begins again, and we're going down at between 45 and 50 kilometers an hour. And Cubino now trying to go clear, and that lead car, I would suggest, wants to get out of the way. Because Cubino, oh, and my goodness me, this is the race for second place, and Tochning has gone down, it appears, just as in fact Bruno Kengi Alta had arrived back on the scene, and I must say the faulty team car was there rather swiftly. But listen to the skidding tyres of the lead car here, because they can't get out of the way of the fastest ending Cubino. Let's look at the crash here now. Kengi Alta had just come back over the top and was on the wheel, and it was about now where Georg Tochning realised he wasn't going to make this bend. He put his front brake on as well, and then he overshot it. Well, he was lucky he was able to get some control on the bike there, because the fall, nothing like as serious as it might have been. Meanwhile, with his braces stuck to the fender of the lead car, we have Lordolino Cubino trying to get space on the descent here. And these are the legs of Tochning, who's got himself back into the action. Surprisingly, hardly a mark on him after that slip and slide on that left-hand bend, but he's still ahead of the field, who are now on the way up again. So the Map A team, as we go into the last 3 kilometres for Cubino, are holding that race together. Romming will be very happy with the way this first taste of mountains has gone today. The long climb to the finish will help him find if his climbing legs are there for this year. And he's using all of his team, and Romming are holding good order in second place. Berzin right behind him in third. Casagrande is also up there. Casagrande is the big surprise so far. Everybody's saying this young man is going to be a star of the future. Well, maybe that ascension is starting in this year's Giro d'Italia. But this is further up the mountain, and Tochning has been detached, or really not got back to Kengi Alta after that crash. He's got him in his sights though, and he's hanging on. Meanwhile, Javier Morleon of the Map A team is doing a great job here for Rominger, keeping the tempo high. And Berzin and Casagrande still riding in the slipstream. That's the advantage when another team has the race leader. You can, if you've got the strength, just follow. Under the kilometre to go banner. Cubino doing what he did a year ago and getting himself a lone victory on a stage in the Giro. And I don't think anybody's going to stop him now, because his lead over Kengi Alta on the road is approaching a minute and a quarter. There's Kengi Alta coming up the climb as well. And there's the time gap over the screen there. And it's going to be more than a minute and a quarter as Kengi Alta rides up to the line to take second place on the stage. But at last a return for a big effort. But what a recovery here by Rominger. The gap has come down today, and Rominger comes in. He takes 7th place on the stage, a minute and 38 seconds back. And the rest of the riders come over the line. Well, the gains, again, a few seconds more gain for Rominger over Ugramov. And Berzin has lost a little bit of time there, because here is Berzin. So over the last couple of kilometres of the climb, Berzin has lost big time. And in fact, he's conceded something like 20 seconds to Tony Rominger. That's his main aim. But what about this man, Maurizio Fondriest, flying high on the overall classification? Look at the clock. Almost 5.5, 6 minutes lost to the winner today. But indeed, a big time lost also to Tony Rominger. So Lordolino Cubino has ridden into the top 3 in the overall classification today with his stage win here. A minute and 19 ahead of Kengi Alta. And then looking down the list, Tochning came home there in 6th place, a minute 38 back. 1,346 kilometres now covered in this year's Giro d'Italia, and they're facing 165 kilometres from Terme la Calda to Salerno. And as you can see, this one at least is all downhill as they head towards the beautiful old Roman town of Salerno. Not a day really for Rominger to worry too much about, but he'll have to watch out what's going on, because there is quite a battle developing. This is the overall situation. He's now a minute 17 seconds ahead of Casagrande, and Casagrande still very much in the thick of things, although his brother, by the way, Filippo, who won earlier, retired yesterday. And today, after only 17 kilometres, the riders are under pressure by an attack of some 12 men who've gone clear, and there's a little effort here to try and limit the escape. And again, Mercatoni Uno riders are trying to get on terms here. This is the breakaway. They've never really been under pressure from behind. Mario Chiesa, 3 men down, the right of our picture, is back in the attack once more. This is Girotto coming through at the moment. Rolf Sorensen is here, number 128. Francesco Frattini, the winner of the Grand Prix of Frankfurt, is also in here. And this now, there is Rolf Sorensen, the Danish rider. Number 115 is Farazin. for the Lamprey team, and number 26 going through there is Lafisse. There's Massimo Girotto, former stage winner in the Tour de France, and indeed it looks as though there's a little problem on the right there, because the hand went up of the Dane. Rolf Sorensen wants a little bit of attention, perhaps to know exactly the whereabouts of everybody else. Now, when Sorensen was in a breakaway about 6 days ago, he was a threat to the overall lead of Tony Rominger. Since then, he's lost far too much time, and now he can dream only of a stage win. By the way, he's been riding the Tour of Italy for about 9 years, and he's never won a stage of it, which I find amazing, because this is a man who's won most of the big races, one of the most successful Danish riders ever. Well, he's made the move again. Now can he do something about it? He's had countless seconds. In fact, he's been almost there on 2 occasions in this year's event. Finished second in the time trial, don't forget, and second at Tortorido Lido as well. And one occasion he probably doesn't want to remember was the bad crash he had in this event back in 1987, the year the race was won by the Irish rider Stephen Roach after his great duel with Roberto Vicentini. And these 12 leaders have not put a wheel out of place today, but they really are dangling just in front of the main field, being led here by Podenzano, the champion of Italy. 30 seconds is the time gap. These 12 riders have been together for the best part of 100 kilometres. All 12 now about to contest the sprint. The first man who's come around the corner here is the ZG Mobili rider, and that is Stefano Cattai. Well, I hope he's not trying to lead out his teammate Girotto, because Girotto isn't the best sprinter either. He's off to the left with the balding head there. But Cattai has got his chance, and Sorensen has got the best position. He's lying there in second place. Frattini is in third place, the winner of the Grand Prix of Frankfurt. And now Cattai has a little bit of a gap, but I don't think he's going to hold it. It's still a long, long way to the finish. Just look at the straight here. This is a most difficult sprint. He's been totally misjudged here by Stefano Cattai. He now begins to wish he could start all over again, because the riders behind are jostling for position. Francois Simon is also here, former stage winner in the Giro d'Italia a couple of years ago, and the pack have closed right in behind them. There's no more time now to mess about, because the field is coming down on them very, very quickly indeed, as Salagari starts to go for the line now, and so too does Sorensen. And Sorensen now is digging on the wheels here, and look at this, Francois Simon to the right in the blue jersey as Sorensen bursts through as well. Simon, Frattini is there, but Sorensen is going to get the win. Frattini hangs on for second, and Simon will take third, and the bunch comes in here. Manzoni gets the sprint there. He's ahead of Massimo Strazza of the Navigar team, but this is how the race was won by Rolf Sorensen. He came very late, but he timed it to perfection, and so now he knows what it's like to win a stage of the Giro d'Italia after 9 years of trying to be first to the finish line. He wins in the end by quite a little way here. A good finish by Frattini. He gets second, and Simon takes third. So this is a moment for Rolf Sorensen to cherish. He's only had one win previously this year, and he is a prolific winner over the years. And there's the confirmation of the result. Salagari in fourth place. Massimo Girotto, there I was saying he couldn't sprint. He managed to get fifth. Now it's to the eve of the rest day, but the most important stage since the beginning, the time trial over 42 kilometres, the 10th stage. Starts and finishes more or less 200 feet above sea level. A little climb in the middle takes them up to 200 metres. And the best time so far set by Patrick Jonker of Australia, but Fondriest has improved on that. He's gone 27 seconds quicker, 53 minutes and 38 seconds. So Fondriest still full of fight in the time trials. Now, what about Evgeny Berzin? Go back a year, number one in the Tour. This year as defending champion. Last year he was dominating in the time trials and running Miguel Indurain. This is his arch rival on the team and in the race too, Petr Ugrumov, who starts behind Berzin because he's higher up in the overall classification. There's still no love lost between those two teammates either, by the way. This is Francesco Casagrande, who has really been the surprise in this year's event so far. Everybody waiting for his bad day. Well, he's not getting one right now, and we expect a good time trial out of him. And an early chance to look at Tony Rominger's new bike. It arrived last night and weighs just 3 pounds. It's a carbon fibre Colnago, and he really wants to ride it, especially in this time trial. He's last to start, of course, today. This is Ugrumov coming in at the check at 18 kilometres, and Berzin's the quickest through here at the moment. Ugrumov is going very close to his time, but here's the man now setting the trend out on the course. So Evgeny Berzin is finding his time trial legs at last, and he's going to be a challenge again in this year's Tour of Italy. There's Pyotr Ugrimov. The two Gay-Wiz riders still vying for the team leadership of the team, and they're running very, very close to one another out on the course. Berzin coming up to the third check at La Vaccaria. The best time through here already finished is Maurizio Fondriest, 39 minutes 31 seconds to this point, but Berzin is going to go through with the best time by 25.5 seconds. Just over 30 miles an hour is average speed despite the climbs. Now Tony Rominger having the advantage of being last to start. He's ahead of Casagrande. Casagrande himself, the time checks indicating he too is still producing a ride in the top 5 today if he can maintain the speed. An arrival now at the finish. Fondriest still the leader, 53.38. That's the shot for Berzin to aim at, and he's going to beat it. There's no doubt about that now. Evgeny Berzin has had an excellent time trial today to become a challenger again in the Tour of Italy. He rounds the furthest hairpin bend to the line. It's an awful long way round that corner. Now he sees the finish, hits the line, 53.18, 20 seconds quicker than Fondriest. But you know, Ugrimov and Rominger are running him very, very close indeed. Casagrande not too far away, but this is the check at the third and final time check out on the course. And Casagrande rivaling Bob Reek and fourth fastest. That's not bad for Casagrande. That will maintain a high position overall, and conceding only 33 seconds to Evgeny Berzin there. Ugrimov coming into the finish around that corner again, and it's going to be desperately close. He hits the line. It's almost an identical time to the nearest whole second. Ugrimov and Berzin will prove inseparable with those times. They will be equal on time in the time trial. What an amazing performance by those two. This is Rominger. Rominger already better than Berzin here by 51 seconds at the third check. The third check coming at 30 kilometres, by the way, just 12 kilometres from the finish. So Rominger now is riding to what will be his third stage victory, all being well, in this year's Giro. The man in pink is beginning to build himself quite a lead overall. Casagrande holding himself in the frame against much more famous names than him, but he is developing and developing well. So it looks like a good decision by Rominger here to use a bike which is comparatively strange to him. Casagrande wobbling a little bit as he makes the final turns towards the finish. His time is going to be a good one though. He's now running close to the time of Fondriest. So that's the third best time recorded now behind Berzin and Ugrimov. So Casagrande is definitely on a top 5 finish now in the time trial. That maintains his challenge. As he spins to the line, he gets third over the line. That's an excellent ride. 19 seconds slower than Berzin. Well, to concede only 19 seconds to the young Russian is a ride. Now Rominger is going to beat them all. Look at this, 51.35 and counting, as against 53.18 on the finish for Berzin. So again, Tony Rominger has delivered a blow. He's beaten the man that dominated the race last year in the time trials. Rominger is well on his way now to winning this year's Tour of Italy, and there's still the mountains to come. Hits the line in 51.54. He wins by an enormous margin, 1 minute and 24.2 seconds. So Tony Rominger has continued to increase his overall lead in this year's Giro d'Italia, his third visit to the winner's podium, and now in the overall he is 3 minutes ahead of Casagrande, who has gone up to second today. Ugrimov is now in to third. And after a day of rest and a rather slow train ride, the riders have now moved up the coastline to Pietrasanta, ready for a first day in the mountains of this year's race. 175 kilometres, taking the riders to Il Ciocco. And this is the climb which takes them up to the dizzy heights of 5,250 feet. This is San Pellegrino, and the rider on the attack here now is Zaina, the Carrera rider. And this, without doubt, the steepest climb in this year's Giro d'Italia. Zaina has made an attack. In fact, there was a breakaway of 12 riders forming after only 12 kilometres of the stage today, and this despite more than 50 kilometres being covered in slightly over the hour of racing. And there's the details of the climb, and I can just add that this has an average gradient, by the way, of 12% with a maximum slope of 16%. And the rider struggling here, number 127, Luca Cinto. And a massive crowd here on the climb of San Pellegrino. 100 meters now to the top for Enrico Zaina. And he's ridden most of the way up by himself here, and he's found the strength to just get out of the saddle and sprint for the prize at the top. As the chase behind continues, this is Luca Cinto. And the little man in front, I think, is Nelson Rodriguez. Rodriguez, second, and if you remember, a great battle in the Tour de France with him last year and Ugrimov, and he took the stage off Ugrimov in the Alps in the last week of the Tour. Well, he's got second place up the climb, and Cinto has taken third. Now, over the top of the climb here, Zaina on his way down. Very tricky but long descent. Rodriguez, very good at going uphill, doesn't look quite so confident on the way down. And Cinto has taken control of the descent. And 2 minutes 5 seconds the leaders now have, or the leader now has, back to the group of the Maglia Rosa, which is that of Tony Rominger. And as you can see, 50 kilometers still to go to the finish. Round about 30 miles left to run towards the end of the stage. And the group, the split now on the main group. So Zaina has 35 seconds lead now, and now we're seeing once more the Map 18 back in tempo. Nobody in again in that breakaway that has worried Tony Rominger. Rominger just making sure he keeps a tight rein now, especially on Casagrande, and of course Ugrimov and Berzin, the terrible twins who race on the Gaywis team, because they are watching each other as well as Rominger. And Rodriguez and in fact Zaina has been caught there by Rodriguez and Cinto, and this is the rest of the breakaway further down the hill. Gilberto Simoni completing this group. And the pink jersey of Rominger seemingly having everything under control on the descent. Here's the update. 1:40 to the chase, 2 minutes 40 back to Rominger's bunch. Well, this has been the first day of testing the mountains, and as so often happens on the first day, the big riders don't attack. They wait to see where the challenges go. Oh, and by Cinto is in a bit of trouble, and he was doing a Georg Topsnig on the left-hand bend there. Well, he did it with a little bit more panache. He didn't actually hit the wall. He managed to stop and put himself to rights, and he's going to get back into this lead group. So we still have the three same riders out in front. Enrico Zaina up there, and he set the trend for most of the day today, led the way up the San Pellegrino climb. And this is the other group here. This is little Alberto Elli, third in line. The chase group still over a minute behind the three leaders. The descent has been completed, and 23 kilometers to go now to the finish. The chase group, Laurent Magras, the ever-improving Frenchman on the right of our picture here. And once more, Mappe deciding they're going to have to do something about this and try and drag Tony Rominger back into the action. Look at the difference in the pedalling rate of Tony Rominger and the other riders. He sits there like a real true climber and pedals those low gears. This is the chase group. Copilillo is the Navigar rider here. And taking it around the corner, Giorgio Furlan. Very quiet season this year, Giorgio Furlan has had. And number 13 at the back here is Simoni. And the leader here, Arsenio Gonzalez for the Mappe, trying to pull now Tony Rominger back into action, but also Ugrimov and Berzin is in that group as well, as they're going now towards the approach to the finish. The three leaders are still there. Rodriguez at the back here. Luca Cinto is the other rider, and finally Enrico Zaina. There's the entrance now to what is a 5-kilometer climb up to the finishing line. And this is the small group that's behind, but the main field are not very far behind this group now. The whole field is coming down very, very quickly indeed. And they are just about hanging on. Laurent Madouas is the rider anxious to get to the front there and try and create some sort of diversion as we move further up the climb now. We've just got the two left. Cinto has gone, and there he is. So he's been dropped by the two leaders. Rodriguez is the climber, but Enrico Zaina is the man who's springing the surprise today. And slowly but surely, the breakaway being swept up one by one as now the Gateways boys are putting the pressure on Tony Rominger once again. And look at this, Zaina is an inspired rider today because little Nelson Rodriguez is having an awful job hanging on to him. And Berzin is also turning the screw. Now Rominger, probably the furthest we've seen him away from Berzin since the Giro d'Italia began, as Berzin starts to attack. Sorry about this little bit of picture breakup. It's the old story with our uplift links to the helicopter above in amongst the trees. But we're seeing the action. And Evgeny Berzin now trying to get rid of Rominger, who seems to have recovered. He may have been caught a little way down the field there. He's up there with Ugrimov, who's taking up the pacemaking now. So Piotr Ugrimov able to do a 1-2 with Evgeny Berzin as we go back to the two leaders there together again. So while Zaina and Rodriguez fight out towards the finish, the Gateways tandem is now trying to get rid of Tony Rominger. The little man, Evgeny Berzin, stamping on those pedals now. Ugrimov, the aging Latvian, who is a tremendous cyclist, now riding alongside his teammate. Zaina continues to make the pace up here, and again he attacks Rodriguez. Now, can Rodriguez answer this one? He's making a much longer dig at this one to try and hold off Rodriguez, but Zaina, I don't think he's got it. He's had to ease up again there. This is Rominger, lower down the slopes now. He's allowed the two Gateways riders to make their effort. Now he's showing them what's left in his legs, and in fact he's pulling them clear of the rest of the field. Now Rominger and co are riding around about 7th or 8th on the road at the moment. There's still the stragglers of that breakaway. Rominger continues to set the pace just to let them know that he really is the strongest man in this year's Giro d'Italia, starting this morning with a nice 3-minute buffer over Casagrande, who we haven't seen for the last few minutes on this climb, obviously trapped back in that chase group. There's Piotr Ugrimov, and there is Evgeny Berzin up towards the dizzy heights now at the top of the finish today. The riders turn inland away from the Tyrrhenian Sea just for the finish, and this is Rodriguez still on the wheel of Zaina and inside the last kilometre, and these three are clear. But in between them somewhere we still have Simony, Furlan. We haven't seen sight of those yet. The rest has slowly been swept away by the group, and Ugrimov continues. About 400 metres to go now for these two leaders, and Enrico Zaina has tried and tried and tried again. He was leading, don't forget, over the top of the big climb today. Second over was the man who's second, and alongside him right now, Nelson Rodriguez. This is the interesting group behind, and another rider, it looks like Laurent Madouas, has been picked up by the Gateways Mappe race here. And again, Berzin leading Rominger. Laurent Madouas, the Castorama rider, about to be picked up. And Zaina takes a good look there at Nelson Rodriguez. But Rodriguez won't like the finish here because they actually finish on an athletic track. It certainly won't be in the favour of the little climber from Colombia. And I wonder if he knows it. I bet you Zaina does. She starts to pick up the pace again now as the mountain starts to level out. A nice little glance to the right here. He will see the finish here, Enrico Zaina. And he's going to make sure he gets into the entry first. Nelson Rodriguez itching to get round him, though, and going to have a go through on the inside. And the sprint is on now as they start to go for the line. This is a very good effort by Rodriguez. It wasn't enough because they came off that bend, and I'm sure Zaina knew about that one. He got the sprint in third place there. Simony comes over the line. This is the group now contesting fifth. Ugrimov gets that. Furlan came in just between the two there. But there is the rider who got his stage win in the Tour of Italy. Another first for him as well. Enrico Zaina taking the victory for Carrera. This is how he did it. And Rodriguez caught off guard there. He came round the corner. There was the finish, and it was all too late for him. But it certainly wasn't for Enrico Zaina. It gives Carrera the victory today. The champagne and the two beautiful women in yellow. And this is the stage result, but more importantly now, Ugrimov is up to second, but 3 minutes 8 seconds back, and Berzin is into third place overall. Now, stage 12, a flattish day going from Borgo Monzano to Cento of 201 kilometres. This did prove to be a lesson of how not to sprint. Mario Cipollini, keep an eye on him. He's in the blue jersey down at the head of the peloton. The finishing line approached. The field was all together. Cipollini would win the stage, but he would be disqualified, and if you watch closely, you'll see why. As they all swung round into the home straight, Jan Zurada was the rider on the far left of the screen. Cipollini was, in fact, in a bad position. He was trapped in the centre of the field. As we look at the shot here, he was already clear and sprinting, seemingly to his third stage victory in this year's Giro d'Italia. Certainly he was on his own, and by this time he was about to win his third stage. Jan Zurada on the right would take second, and Giovanni Lombardi would get third. So everybody went off to the podium and the celebrations began. But then the referees took another look at the photo finish, and as a result of that, they decided to disqualify Cipollini. This is why. The blue jersey of Cipollini is fifth in line. On his right there is Manzoni. He clearly pushes him out of the way to make room for a clear approach to the finish. Now, it did appear to me that was a very hard decision by the race referees, because I don't think it made very much difference to the actual race result. Victory was given, in fact, to second-place finisher Jan Zurada. Lombardi was third, Citero was fourth, Manzoni was fifth. Pieve di Cento to Rovereto, 218 kilometres, and the mountains are getting closer now, and this a very tough stage indeed. Just one climb, though, coming towards the end. It's the climb of San Valentino. And just watch this now as we replay what happened earlier in the stage. A little bit of a wheelie being done by a Gavis rider and resulting in that rather horrendous crash, but thankfully nobody injured. And just take a look at it again. Watch just behind the AKI rider, as a Gavis rider seems to catch his foot and down he goes. And a very nasty fall indeed. And I can think of an easier way to pick grapes. And the amazement too of the riders at the front as they look over. But the race continuing now, and on the climb of San Valentino, the only king of the mountains counter. Piccoli still the leader, by the way, in this competition, as he has been for much of the Giro this year, and 45 kilometres remaining. Well, there's been a number of attacks now, but nothing has got clear yet, except this small group is now beginning to make some progress. It was originally 13 riders. It's thinned down a little bit now. And in this breakaway group, among others, is Oliveira Rincon and Pascal Richard, the Swiss rider. And this is the chase now. And Berzin again playing fully now his part in this race. The terrible twins, I've called them, and there they are again. Ugrimov and Berzin riding almost side by side, and alongside them both is the pink jersey of this year's race, seemingly invincible. And Piccoli is at the head of the race here, the leader in the King of the Mountains, scoring well again. And Dmitry Konyshev, the rider, briefly seen at the back of the group there. So Piccoli is really shot to the fore in this year's race. And he's talking here across to the other rider, who is Vyacheslav Bobrik. In fact, he was obviously asking him for a drink. Bobrik is Russian, but now he resides, having come here to Italy with Evgeny Berzin, former both Russian national squad riders. He now speaks fluent Italian. And still, Rominger looking rather contented with the way this race is going. We're on the edge of the Dolomites, and tomorrow we'll be in the thick of them. And perhaps he's thinking more of that as we approach the small finishing circuit here with 17 kilometres remaining. And the breakaway don't look like being caught at all now. They're hanging on to quite a nice little lead here over the main field. They're quite a long way ahead now, over 6 minutes. But the group containing Berzin and Rominger is round about a minute 30, and here they are. And Patrick Jonker, the Australian rider, his first season for him on the Spanish Once team, enjoying a little bit of the action. But this is now Jonker's teammate here, and this is Olivier Rincon. He's on his second season with the Once team, and alongside him is Pascal Richard. And Richard having a very, very good season. In fact, he's won 4 races already this year. And he was the King of the Mountains indeed in the Giro d'Italia 1 year ago. Now they've got clear on the last climb of the Col de Patoni, and the gap is still not over significant. About, well, there it is, a minute and 40 seconds on the group containing Tony Rominger. Rincon doing a lot of the work here. And just 2 days ago, his wife gave birth to their child, and so he's got something to celebrate. And the Once team have had a quiet race so far. Eric Breukink in the early moves has dropped away significantly, and Rincon now putting that to rights with an attack here, a very narrow approach up towards the top of the Petone. 208 kilometres covered at this point, just 10 kilometres from the finish, and that's confirmed on the right of the screen there. And still, it's the Gaywiz boys who keep the pressure on, and Rominger beginning to enjoy their presence, I think, because he's using them a little bit now. Minute 48 to the two leaders. A very gentle left-hand turn here, and it looked like a trip into space if he didn't make it too tightly around that corner. These roads are so difficult to really get a chase going in because they are so narrow and twisty. Back down below and 1 kilometre to go now. Well, Rincon and Richard, surely Pascal Richard is the sprinter, former champion of his country, Switzerland, former stage winner of the Tour de France and the Tour of Italy. And this is a late chase. It looked like it was the Gaywiz rider, Bob Reek, who's again slipped off the front. And Bob Reek trying to get on terms, and he's got them in his sights. Now, if they mess about, he'll have them. And in fact, look at this. Richard has seen him coming, and he's going to gamble. Richard is waiting as late as possible, and Rincon is going to take him on in this wall of nerves. And just look at the speed now. The advancing Vladislav Bobrick. He's closing in so quickly. Stages have been won like this, and Richard isn't showing any signs of panic. Richard is still waiting for Rincon to make the move. Rincon goes now. Bobrick ever so close, and he can't quite get on as Richard easily takes the lead and kicks away. So Pascal Richard takes this stage of the Giro d'Italia, followed over the line by Oliveira Rincon, and this is Guerini who comes across the line in fourth place. And Piccoli, the king of the mountains, he'll keep his green jersey for another day. He is finishing almost 50 seconds down in fifth place. This is the sprint for the best of the rest, and it looks as though David Rebellin is about to take on Casagrande and get him on the line indeed. And also involved in that sprint too was Jens Heppner. But there's the happy smiles of Pascal Richard, back on the winner's podium for him, as he was so many times in the Giro a year ago. And this is how he did it, and what a cool nerve he had too. He knew that Bobrick was coming up, and he didn't panic. He waited and went, and he won. And with the main field and all the favourites in at 1 minute 22, there was no real change overall. Rominger, Ugrimov, Berzin, Casagrande the order. And that might well change now, because we're on to stage 14 at 240 kilometres. This, the longest stage of this year's Giro, and it is a brute of a course as well. The riders are in the Dolomites now, and they finish on top of the Val Senalis. So the riders have left Trento, and they've gone right up to the snow line here. This breakaway going clear on the Passo di Penis, and containing in it number 7 at the back of the group is Alberto Volpi. But again, this early breakaway containing no riders who can offer a threat to Tony Rominger. They're gambling on a long break here, perhaps to pull back a little bit of time. Tomar Davy is also here for the Banesto team. The Banesto, without their leader, Miguel Indurain, have had a very, very quiet race indeed. No one to really work for. And this is a small group that has got clear trying to join them. It's being led by Maurizio Fondriest. Enrico Zainer has got back to the front, our hero of a couple of days ago. And the rider in blue is the ever-consistent and, I must say, ever-improving Laurent Madouas. And this is now on the climb of the 2,100 metres pass, the pass of the Monte Giovo. It was the previous climb when the breakaway got clear of 6, and it looks as though Fondriest is determined enough now to try and get up to those 6 leaders. So a stage win under his belt, Maurizio Fondriest, but he's dropped far and away from the overall challenge of a high GC finish here. Again, yesterday he lost 8 minutes on the leaders, but it seems he wants to do something today. This is Zainer, and this is the lead group here. And number 104 at the front there is Hernan Buenajora, very, very consistent Colombian rider on the Kelme team. Nearly at the top now, the Passo di Monte Giovo. And the other rider from Kelme seems to go everywhere that Buenajora goes in the mountains, and that's Lordolino Cubino. Nelson Rodriguez bringing the riders up and under the banner. and they stayed more or less together. 5 of them surviving as they go over the top, and Zaina on the back of them now as well. Just about below the snow line. So often the Giro d'Italia tangles itself up with the end of the winter snows, and as you can see there, the roads are wet as the snow continues to melt. 3 minutes 15 back to the main group, and containing Tony Rominger, Ugrimov, Berzin, and 1 or 2 riders not being content with just newspapers for the rather chilly descent. I noticed 1 or 2 wearing their overcoats. As they now make their way back down the mountain shortly, and then they head on towards the finish at Val Senalis. Well, I think this is a very wise way to race the stage here. 240 kilometres, a long way, of course, in the mountains, and Rominger is allowing his rivals, if they want, to attack him. He has never put a foot wrong so far. His team also have worked extremely well to keep him right in a position from which to launch any possible required counter-attack. And talking of counter-attacks now, here's our little group together, and that's Zaina now joining the leaders. This is Laurent Madouas and Fondriest are still in between, the group now being headed again by Mappé. A little bit lower down, and the sun is out, you can see from the shadows of the riders. And there is the small group coming up. A small gap too, 11 seconds to these 2 chasers. They're going to be on very, very shortly now. There's been no sign of worry here though from the Mappé. Oh, and I think my shoulders might ache just a little bit after a course like this today. And that is Arsenio Gonzalez just stretching his shoulder muscles there. He knows there's a lot of work still to come. The gap though is not significant, 2 minutes 15 seconds. We still have the long climb up to the finish, and I'm quite sure it's not quite the Alpe d'Huez of the Giro d'Italia, but it is a hard climb, and I would think that Tony Rominger is going to wait until then. These riders in the lead are certainly not out of reach at the moment, because there's 30 miles rather, more or less, are still to go to the finish. 45 kilometres. Well, not only has this been the longest stage of the race today at 240 kilometres, but the majority of it has been into a very strong headwind, and that's not a smile on the face of Laurent Madouas, it is in fact a grimace. Rider going through here and just keeping the tempo steady. Menegotto from the ZG team. Little Nelson Rodriguez, and I don't think that Madouas is going to get too much shelter on his wheel. Well, it's been a long and bitter chase. All of the gaps are coming down, but Fondriest is nearly on, and he's bringing with him Alberto Volpi. Volpi is coming back from that lead group, in fact, and there they are. And this indeed is the chase behind, so it looks as though on the final climb as we head up towards the top of Val Senalis that the whole field could come together here, and that would put Tony Rominger back in with a possibility of yet another stage victory. Frattini again trying to play an active part in this year's Giro, carrying all the confidence of a man who's won a World Cup Classic this year. But the way he was riding there, it was more for his Gay Whiz partners, Berzin and Ugrimov. Reformation at the front, Rodriguez, Buenahora, Zaina, Madouas, they're the riders up front. The face of Tony Rominger looking a little bit concerned, but he needn't. The gap is still down, 20 seconds to the chase group, 1:22 between Rominger and the very front group, but just over a minute to the handful of riders in front. And a minute on a climb of this stature is not very much. And it looks as though Cubino is having a bit of trouble. That was Cubino passing through. This is Madouas. Buenahora is the other rider in Kelme colours, 1:04. And Maurizio Fondriest has given up. He's allowing the group to come to him. Volpi too. Although Volpi won't be too worried about this. He's a great climber, Volpi. He's had a couple of very good seconds in the Alps in the Tour de France. And John Unzaga leading the race for Mappé at the moment. Now, Cameron Madouas, who always tries in the mountains, can he just do something today and take out the win? Little Rodriguez, who was in at the Kill a couple of days ago, and now is there again, seemingly, as Enrico Zaina, another man that's featured well, also trying again for Carrera. Looking at Zaina there, wouldn't it have been nice to have seen Marco Pantani in the thick of the action? The rider unable to start this Giro because of an accident involving an autocar just before the race began. Well, we wish him well and hope he gets back to form for the Tour de France. Well, it's hardly the big Grand Peloton of the Giro d'Italia, but it does contain all of the rivals down there, and they're coming in slowly but surely, and surprisingly, Rodriguez here is slipping away, leaving just a couple of men up front. Well, Zaina is one of them. Madouas has gone from our view, so the other one must be Bueno Hora. And there he is. So the Colombian climber and Enrico Zaina, who is having a really very, very good season indeed, that man. He's really matured this year. He was 5th in the Grand Prix of Frankfurt. And now he's in with a chance of a stage win here again. Making all of the running. Bueno Hora follows him, but the group is coming up behind at a relentless rhythm. There they are. Tony Rominger in pink, always on his shoulder. Last year's winner of the Giro, Evgeny Berzin, they've got them. So the last of the breakaways are back in this very select front group now. There's still plenty of time on the climb, and another attack immediately. Bueno Hora is caught. This looks like Gonzalez is going. Another Kelme rider. He's leaving himself something like 18, 19 kilometers to the top of this mountain, because it is, believe it or not, a 23-kilometer climb. And he's got the little gap, and I don't think there'll be too many riders ready to take up the chase immediately after a long effort to bring back the rest of that breakaway. 9 kilometers to go now, and the legs are beginning to ache and the shoulders are beginning to roll. Well, this is Chepi Gonzalez from the Kelme team, and to me he's lost an awful lot of his rhythm in these last couple of kilometers. It's still a long way. The gap counting on the top of the picture there, and it's just round about half a minute. No change in this group composition at all. Still all of the men who matter are here. Rominger, Ugrimov, Berzin, Casagrande, Kipucci. They're the top 5 overall in this year's Giro d'Italia, and they're still locked together, riding the mountain in the same bunch. Everybody tempting to see just how strong Rominger is, if they need reminding, because he is so obviously strong this year. He has come here with tremendous form. Continuing his climb, Olivier Rincon riding on his wheel in the yellow jersey of the Once team, and he's in a bit of a gay whiz sandwich at the moment, with Evgeny Berzin at the back and Futur Ugrimov at the front. Still trying to bring back the cheeky attack by Gonzalez. The flotilla of motorcycles ahead indicating that they're not very far away from him either. But this is a group which is getting clear from the rest of the field now. Once again, the top men are projecting themselves. Francisco Casagrande seemingly having a little bit of difficulty following the big wheels in the mountains. And there is the rider who broke away, Gonzalez, and he's now being brought back to heel. A good look over his shoulder, he sees the maglia rosa of Tony Rominger, again at the head of the race where the leader should always be. And Rincon has gone. Rincon has done the classic move, just in fact as Gonzalez did. Rincon has waited for the capture and jumped clear. He's absolutely flown away from this gap. And don't forget, he was second yesterday. He was annoyed about that because he was hoping to celebrate the birth of his new child, which is now 3 days old, by the way. And he's now trying to put amends and get the victory today. Berzin looking across, in fact, looking over the shoulder of Rominger, because Berzin anxious to put time 2 into Casagrande and Kipucci. So too Ugrimov. Ugrimov and Berzin locked together, fighting at the moment for second place overall in this year's race. And Rominger need do nothing but follow these wheels. These are the men who have to attack him, who have to get